Welcome to Fantasy Femme Fatales, where two fantasy readers dive headfirst into the worlds of romantasy and dark romance. From fantasy deep dives to book club banter, we're talking plot, magic systems, and all the spicy details. So pour a drink, grab your latest obsession, and let's turn the page together. Hi everyone! Welcome to our second deep dive episode of the Sins of the Zodiac series, Book 1, Neverkeep by Caroline Peckham and Susanne Valenti. I'm Kara.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are Fantasy Femme Fatales. In our last episode, we covered the first 10 chapters of Neverkeep, basically the prologue. And today we're going to be continuing on that journey, covering chapters 11 to 25. Now, this section of the book was a lot of content and a lot happened here. So we're going to be splitting these chapters into 2 episodes. So stay tuned for our next episode where we will cover off the rest. Our story begins 1 year after all of those initial events, and things went wild from here. As always, we're going to cover a recap of the content along with all of our reactions, analysis, predictions, and what's to come. Let us know if you're reading Neverkeep with us, what you think about it. Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us so you don't miss out on any of the fun episodes that we have planned. With that said, let's dive in. So this next part of the story begins 1 year later. We reacquaint ourselves with Everest. It's been a year since her mother's death, and right away we've noticed that she's honed her craft of forging weapons. She's been training alongside Harlon and counting down the days until she meets her fate at Neverkeep. So right away, we're getting this new version of Everest with the grief of her mother's death replaced by anger and a visceral need for vengeance. We find out pretty quickly that Everest is an outcast and struggles to cope with what life has thrown at her, and we see this start to take shape as part of her personality. Harlon is basically the only person that she has. They're both friends and family, but there's definitely something a little bit more that neither of them have admitted to each other. And Harlon has lived a tortured life too. So they do have that in common, but Harlon is already a well-respected fighter and on the path to achieving great things. And of course, it's no surprise that he is hot AF. Everest and Harlon make their way onto the ship for Neverkeep, where they'll meet other young fae from the other elemental lands who also hope to be admitted into training. As they get on the ship, Everest is confronted by her father. At first, we think he'll give her a bag of coins, but instead he tells Everest that she'll never make it in the ranks of Neverkeep and will live out the rest of her days as a provider, which is a woman whose sole task is to produce offspring from accomplished warriors. Now, our girl Everest is not about to become a handmaid, so naturally she freaks out at this news and nearly punches him in the face. I love to see her seething there. Like, we haven't seen her seething with rage, so that was kind of sick.
Yeah, she really let that facade slip for a second.
Commander Rake at this point takes her bag and the collection of her mother's weapons and puts her in jail, basically, keeps her in a cage for the 10-day trip to Neverkeep. Everest is pissed and looks down at her hand, which was scarred with the basilisk venom, and remembers everything that it signifies to her. Her path to revenge, to find the man who killed her mother, and to earn a place at Neverkeep. Wild. As much as I absolutely hate Commander Rake, I feel like this is really setting the stage and fueling the fire for her to become the ultimate bad bitch.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like I was a little hard on Everest in our last episode. And so I actually really liked getting this turnover from a year later. We see that growth in her and her anger come through, and she is not willing to just take things sitting down.
Totally. I'm pumped for what this means for her character arc. I'm hoping that we're going to continue to get badass Everest.
Also, Commander Rake is just the grossest. First of all, the name is gross, but he is gross. He's basically an ugly, unbathed pirate. And
oh my God.
That's what I picture in my head, is just he's on the ship and he just looks like the most scurvied pirate there ever was.
Yeah, I didn't see him like that, but I'm gonna start seeing him like that. I think that's an incredible depiction of this horrible, horrible man.
Now we get a really interesting reintroduction to Vesper as she enters a royal ball at Rathbane, which is the royal palace at Stormfell. They are celebrating the most promising sky wielder candidates who are leaving for Neverkeep. to train and have their magic awakened. Now, upon entry into this ball, she confronts a sneering aristocrat while carrying a freshly severed head, blood and all, into the party in true Vesper form. Our Sky Witch. Now, this head belongs to Tobias Stern, who is Dragor's advisor, and Vesper claims that he is a traitor. She caught him revealing war plans to General Calfire, who is the Flamebringer's general. Now, Princess Lorena, Dragor's sister, accuses Vesper of lying. And so she agrees to have a Cyclops read her. And so the Cyclops will basically go in and sift through her memories to confirm if she's telling the truth. She agrees to that. And then Lorena whips her in the face with air magic and like busts open the wound on her face and demands that she cleans herself up before she rejoins the festivities. Vesper heads back to her quarters, which are on the palace grounds. She bathes herself and gets ready for the event. During this time, we learn that there's ink covering her body. She has runes and words of prophecy in the language of the stars. The words represent power and strength, protection, and fortune, and she describes them as the most honest pieces of her. I'd worked my blood magic into the decoration on my flesh. My body had been designed to seduce and to command desire, but those swirling lines of scripture, mixed with representation of the power of air, spoke more truthfully about who I really was. In this moment, she screams, feeling the frustration, anger, and the grief that she's held, finally setting free. These feelings are connected to those that she's killed, but also the trembles in her limbs from the pieces of her soul that she has paid for her blood magic. This part really made me feel some things. The bath scene for sure really, it felt like we got that inside view of Vesper, and below her hard exterior she has this past and a little bit of almost like a sentimentality, how she's decided to carry these markings connected to these harsh decisions she's made.
Right? Yeah, it almost feels like she's punishing herself. Thinking about her relationship with Prince Dragor too. The parallel there's more to Vesper than we're currently seeing. I think she has been presented as this very hard exterior, and I agree. I think it was nice to kind of see a little bit more of what goes on, like the inner workings of Vesper.
I think we also have this moment of we know she's a succubus. We know she's this sex icon. But in this scene, we get the feeling that she hasn't shown her naked side to many people because she kind of calls it the most honest part of her so she can use her sex as a weapon. But I get the feeling that Vesper's probably a virgin, which is an interesting polarity of her character.
I love that. And I like what you said too about not really showing the honest side of her. I feel like there's been so many opportunities for people to make a snap judgment of her because she's the Sky Witch, because she's Prince Dragor's creature, because she's a succubus. So nobody really does know who the real Vesper is except for her.
And also, if we want to pull the feminist card a little bit here of a nice representation of how female sexuality is used to degrade women. It's not Vesper's fault that she's a succubus and that she has this power, but she's called names all the time, as if she is less than.
Well, that's a really good point. Yeah. And that's got to take a toll on someone. I think she's got enough going on other than being called a whore at every waking moment.
So this moment with the ball, the event that she shows up at, I just thought that was such a cool introduction to her. It was such a badass moment, and it took me to Kill Bill with her carrying around this severed bloody head that's dripping across the floor, and even her just getting that whip in the face. It felt similar to that moment with her in the prologue where she's going to get the lashings and she's sure, whatever. I think we're getting both sides of her in this section for sure.
Oh yeah, she's a feisty little bee.
I was thinking about the runes and the words of prophecy. So I was just kind of curious. We don't really know why she was chosen to learn ether. And they described it as the sages only chose those that were the most promising. And they seem to have a fondness for her, some of the things that go on in this section. So I just wonder, maybe her greatness is bigger than her name. And so maybe there is a deeper prophecy element here. I thought it wouldn't be crazy for someone a lowly orphan type like her to be a savior in a prophecy.
Totally. Yeah, I'm definitely getting these chosen one vibes from Vesper. I love the idea that this blood magic has something to do with it. Like the sage obviously wanted her as
Mhm.
well to know about the runes,
Right.
which was interesting.
Yeah.
So I can't help but wonder if she is part of something bigger than we know yet. I mean, it makes sense that she was a war child and she was unawakened at the time, and so she really needed like another power.
Mhm.
So like it could just be that, but I don't know. There's definitely something there with this sage and this blood magic that leads me to believe that she's part of something, some prophecy.
Yeah. So we'll keep our nose on that one, see what we
Yes.
get.
Yes. So Vesper steps into a beautiful gown and hears a rough voice from behind her. Cayde, also a shameful sinfare, but not one born to a weak bloodline like Vesper was. His mother lost an entire legion to a raid on the earthlands of Avanus. His father and brother seeking revenge, taking 5,000 Skyforgers without permission and leading them into a trap that ended the lives of every single one of them. Now, Cayde was punished for it and made a sinfare. His hope is that becoming the most celebrated sinfare of the army, he'll win back his honor. He brings Vesper a jar of healing ointment and some sass at the same time, and she responds by throwing her dagger at him in an intentional near miss. The confrontation ends with Cayde pinning Vesper against the door and then the floor, where they fight it out before they're interrupted by none other than Prince Dragor. Vesper is filled with absolute dread at being found in this position with Cayde. So Cayde leaves and Dragor stares at Vesper, noting the mark on her throat from Cayde's hand mark. My God.
The hand mark. The hand mark on the throat, Kara. I was just like,
Same. It was wild. Like the fact that he gripped her hard enough to leave a hand mark too. Like, I am not upset
like
about it.
it's like day one throat play. And like we're not even in that territory yet. Like there's barely tension. There's tension, but like they did not waste a minute in this book with the tension with anyone, you know?
Right? It was wild for Dragor to walk in on this situation too. Like this was angsty AF. We love a good angsty yearning. Honestly, they could wrestle on the floor for the rest of the book and I would not be upset. Whatever is going on between Cayde and Vesper is chef's kiss, and I'm
Mhm.
not even mad.
No, like I loved it. Like I was like,
Right?
where are we going from here? Like this, I am loving all of the Vesper content. Like it's so good. And this start to finish, this whole section was so cool. Like what is going to happen with this triangle between the three of them? Like, where's this Cade guy come from? Is Dragor going to kill him? Like it feels like he might.
Right. I know. And who sent him?
Who sent him?
Prince Dragor, in a stupor over Cayde having his hands on Vesper, says, "They say that to fuck a succubus is to ruin yourself for all other lovers." The prince tells her that whenever she needs to release some tension from battle, to remember the wall and that she stands within it. But before Vesper can respond, Dragor grabs her by the back of the neck and shoves her down over the desk. "You worked very hard to get my attention for the last 5 years, and now you have it." Vesper ends up swearing herself to him, aware of the truth that she had pledged herself to this beast and given up her humanity and in the pursuit of pleasing him, the power that clung to him and the respect that surrounded him. "Careful, little witch," he says. "If you follow this path, you'll become my creature entirely, bound to me in every way. I won't relinquish you once I've had you. So be certain that you know what it is you're claiming, because once you fall for the sin of me, there will be no repenting and no undoing it." Them's fighting words. Crazy. He asks if that's what she wants, and she says yes, condemning her soul with one word. This part gets a little steamy. Our boy Dragor, he takes control and takes her to the brink of ecstasy, if you know what I mean, but he doesn't let her return the favor. Dragor then says to her, "I will have you perfect or nothing at all," and applies pressure to the cut on her face, insinuating that the cut will be healed by the Reapers. When he leaves her room, Vesper sits with the thought of what she'd done, knowing better than to offer herself up to this monster.
She knew better and she did it anyway.
I was shaking. I was full blown shaking at this scene.
I was like, this is like chapter 12.
Right? Yeah, so early. And she's already giving herself up to this hot Draco Malfoy man.
Honestly, yeah, I did not think we were getting this so fast. I mean, like the tension in the prologue was like palpable. which was like incredible because we don't even know these people yet. But I was like stunned and like I was visibly upset that I couldn't just like text you. I think I just texted you like, so Prince Dragor. Like, what else am I allowed to say? We can't talk about it, but like, holy fuck.
I know. It was so wild. You think something is going to be the precipice of like the plot moving, and then it's like boom, boom, boom. And it just keeps going. And you're like, like, you're waiting for the next shoe to drop, basically, because everything is happening so fast.
I think there's so many books we read where like you have to kind of like grind out the like slow build and foundation, and whatever magic they've woven into this book, they're doing it on pace with like all this stuff happening at the same time. So it feels like you don't know where things are going because every time you think you're building up to something, it happens so fast that you're like, oh, that's not it then.
Right.
There's got to be more.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well said.
The next step in both Everest and Vesper's journey is Helle Fort, where their fortunes will be decided. There are rules to these assessments, so if any Fae has the gift of sight, they will claim a highly envied position as a Reaper and removed from the standard battle training and secluded to a warded off area of Neverkeep. If they are awakened with more than one magical element, they also will be taken by the Reapers and hailed as an acolyte, a Reaper in training. This is important to note for any of you Zodiac Academy, Ruthless Boys, etc. fans, because we get a bit of a different take here on a multiple magical element scenario. This is different. So, Everest, she stands in the crowded Helle Fort and a Reaper approaches. He announces that they will each be appraised and assessed in their magic, their mind, and their body to decide their place in the world. Now, Everest happens to be called first. She's brought into a room where she selects a weapon and then she enters her combat trial. This is the first step in the process, and she's challenged by a giant beast, just like one of the ones she battled in the Wastelands. So she defeats the animal and then moves into another room and is assessed for the gift of sight by a Cyclops Reaper. She's confirmed not to be a seer, so she's invited into her awakening. Now, Everest's water magic awakens, and she enters the arena for her magic trial. Her magic is very strong. Go, Everest. She's shattering all the targets into bits, and she's only using her right hand, okay? Now, before long, the Reapers kind of clue in that she's only casting with one hand, and they demand that she uses both. So she tells them about her injury, and she highlights that like she has done an incredible job with just one hand and her power is clearly worthy. But she's told that based on her inability to use both hands, she has not placed and she's going to be sent home. It almost seems like this was decided before she arrived. Now, Everest, not one to back down, she fights back, and with one last attempt, she exerts all of her power toward the shield that is protecting the Reapers, and a bolt of energy connected from me to it, like a twisting, writhing darkness inside of me. It leaves the shield cracked and broken. And one of the Reapers says, how could she do such a thing with just water magic? So the Reapers are convinced she is clearly worthy of a place at Neverkeep, and they will consider her a wild card. Basically meaning that she can stay at Neverkeep and train, but she doesn't get a room. She has to sit idly by on standby until a candidate dies so she can take their room. So, yes, this was very interesting. We get a first little bit of a whisper about Everest's power, that there seems to be more than meets the eye in terms of her water magic. I think there's more going on here.
Right. Yeah. I immediately at this part, like what stood out to me was how they described her magic, like outside of the realm of her elemental power. Like they said, a bolt of energy, a blast of light, fizzling out with crackles. And to me, that sounded like lightning. We are reading other books in the Solaria universe. So I immediately thought at this stage in the book, Storm Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, could it be? Could it be? Obviously, we know that's not the case now that we've read further, but I thought that was really interesting. There's definitely something going on there.
Yeah, there's a few things in this section, and I was like, I can really draw on my Zodiac knowledge here, or like my Ruthless Boys knowledge, and I was like, no, I don't know what that is actually. So yeah, we're left kind of in the dark here,
Right.
but that's okay. I love this mystery. I love an extra magic element, and like Everest has some things going on.
Totally. Yeah. I can't wait to see where this goes with her.
Something I've picked up on here, they talk about how basilisk venom leaves scars that not even healing magic can repair, but like reapers can bring fae back from the dead. So I was like, this is crazy that like you can't heal a little snake venom, but you can bring someone back from the dead. These
Yeah.
reapers are sus, you know? Like,
That is weird. I honestly never would have thought of that. I wonder if that's a plot hole, or maybe it's not. Maybe it is alluding to the fact that the Reapers, maybe there's something going on there. But you're
yeah,
right, that is strange.
yeah, it's weird.
Everest finds Harlon and tells him the good news that she's made it to Neverkeep. But unfortunately, at the same time, she learns that Harlan has been imbued with two elements, and he is going to go train as a Reaper in a cordoned off area where Everest will not be allowed. So, separated. So, when they realize they will be torn apart, Harlan grabs her by the face and lands a deep and passionate kiss on her and commits to finding her again soon, realizing how much time he's wasted by not acting on his feelings. Crazy. I was not expecting this. I was like, what the hell?
I know. I thought we were going to get like a slow build, like unrequited love thing.
Right?
I did not see him becoming a Reaper either. I was like, what?
I
The
know.
Manorian bear?
Right? Like, poor unassuming, like, kind of boring character so far. Mr. Nice
Yeah.
Guy is a Reaper. Before Everest can board the boat to take her to Neverkeep, she has a run-in with Ransom, and he acts like a dick again, gets her tied up to a flagpole in a super embarrassing turn of events. Once again, making her a pariah among this new horde of fae. I cannot stand this guy. The way that he tried to trick her into like shaking his hand and just like strung her up and made it look like she peed. That pissed me off. That was like mortifying.
Horrible. And like in this, you're like, Everest, no, don't shake his hand. But you know, you're also just like, I get it, let bygones be bygones. And stupid idiot. I hate this
Right.
guy.
Totally. Everest arrives at Neverkeep and learns some of the rules. Now, Neverkeep is divided by a land and element, and they are forbidden from entering other areas of the keep. Each area of the keep is seemingly designed for each unique element, helping the different elements grow strong and uncover their unique strengths. They must put all warring efforts to the side during their year at Neverkeep. That sounds like it's not going to happen. I don't know how that's going to possibly happen. So we'll just see how that goes. They'll train in a number of types of magic, one of those being cardinal magic, for example. This is a Twisted Sisters favorite. Cardinal magic provides them the chance to learn critical magic that each fae possesses outside of their element. So think silencing shields, concealment, mental shields, amplification, and more. Now, as the other water fae are led to the Vault of Frost, their living quarters, one Reaper leads Everest down a deep stairwell into the cleansing chamber, which is where her room is located. This is where the water from all of the vaults collects and moves through a cleansing ritual, passing by runes imbued by the power of fae who work to maintain the keep. She quickly realizes that her room is extremely shabby, but at least she's got a room. She's gifted an Everflame, a source of warmth, and Everest thinks she may be able to make a forge and replace the weapons that were taken from her if she can gather the right materials. This part was sad, honestly. I was sad that she got the shittiest room. Like, she had to scrape tooth and nail just to get into Neverkeep, and here she is just being totally shit on.
I know, like give her a broom closet or something. Like she's basically in like the bowels of Neverkeep. I
Right.
keep imagining there being drains everywhere, just like this like murky, dark, cold basement thing she's living in.
Totally. I know, it's a hot mess.
Yeah, like there had to have been another spot for her. We do kind of learn through this section. It does seem like some space may have like freed up and like she still is not given it. I kind of feel like Everest got set up. This is my suspicion, is like she was like never supposed to be allowed in. I mean, we kind of got that on the ship that like Commander Rake is like, you're going to go and be a provider. And somehow she managed to find like a loophole. And so my suspicion is maybe the commander paid like the head Reaper who was in her trial to not let her through and make up this rule about her hand. But because the rest of the Reapers saw how powerful she was, it just didn't make sense. And like maybe it would have like outed their little conspiracy if they were too firm on that rule when like they clearly need warriors, right?
I kind of love that. Like, there's still so many unknowns about why they hate Everest so much. So I wouldn't put
They
it
do.
past Commander Ray.
We got the sense that she didn't think she was going to get in from the beginning. We have heard no real clear cut rules about this, like casting with two hand thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's just sus, I
Yeah.
think. So next we see Vesper, also at Helle Fort. She is also undergoing her initiation and she wins her combat trial very easily. She is obviously a well trained warrior. She enters the chamber for her awakening. And so she approaches the statue of Gemini and she touches the statue's hand. Something reaches inside of her and pulls, and it seems to pull her through sensations that are connected to each of the elements, which is this like really cool experience. We didn't quite get this deep of a view with Everest. So she feels each element and she has this kind of like visceral reaction. And the last one is air. And she has this feeling of the purest breath she's ever taken and raw magic, and she can't imagine ever having been without it. Now, the doors open, she moves through them into a large arena, and this is her chance to prove her abilities in order to qualify for Neverkeep. She connects with her magic, and a storm of air explodes from her, and she destroys every single target as chunks of the wall are ripped apart in a blast that she throws out around her. And then she creates a tornado that is brutal, raw, and wild, everything that she is at her core. And she looks up to the Reapers and she sees Dragor, his eyes full of possession. One of the Reapers announces, "You've been deemed a worthy warrior of the great and noble kingdom of air. You have placed welcome to Neverkeep." Dragor approaches and introduces her to a Reaper who then heals her face. And it seems like a pretty uncomfortable process. I thought this was very interesting. It involves a power that rushes so deeply in her that it makes her like physically uncomfortable, but she also has this response feeling like it's almost healing every single part of her and giving her like this new beginning. So I thought that was really, really
Yeah.
cool. Now Dragor takes her, he delivers her to Neverkeep and demands that she will be the best. He warns her that her arrogance will be her downfall, and he kisses her one more time before he vanishes into the air. Now, when Vesper was 16, Sage Moya, the oracle who trained her in ether, gave her an old diary that was written by a succubus who committed her life to unfurling the mysteries of their unique kind. So Vesper knew her gifts very well and was trained for this opportunity, and she would prove just how perfect she could be. Game on!
Let's see it. I know Vesper isn't going down without a fight.
Yes, she's not going down without a fight. One thing I just wanted to call out here because it wasn't quite important enough to like describe in this section, but before these ladies go in for their trials, we get this part about a coven of vampires and it felt purposeful. I don't know, we'll see. We haven't really seen vampires in the book yet, and in this whole section we don't get other vampires, but they kind of presented differently here, like how they kind of have their own space and basically no one can compete with a vampire. So I'm just like making a little mental note on that because I know that like the Twisted Sisters love a hot AF vampire, and so I'm kind of hoping they come back.
Right? If you've read Zodiac Academy, I do have to say Caleb Altair will always hold a special place in my heart. So I would absolutely love to see this come to fruition. Also, there was that moment like when Vesper and this vampire like lock eyes, and I think he was like maybe thinking about her as his source, but I couldn't help but wonder if he could be like MMC number 5.
God, we need more, obviously.
I guess so. I mean, if he's a vampire, like he's totally welcome. Vesper examines her room, noticing a copper basin with a symbol carved into it that looks like an imbued rune, similar to the one on her Wind Rider, which stores air power. The Laguz rune on the basin represents life energy, imagination, dreams, and water, which was odd. Why would a rune be here? It reminded her of the It reminded her of the dark magic Sage Moya had warned her about. The magic she had been trained in could be used for many things, including commanding power over the elements. Asking to learn how to command other elements was blasphemous and could earn yourself an execution if you tried to attempt it. But once, Sage Moya whispered it to her, the ones with potential to affect elements other than air, Laguz being one of them. Based on the power she could feel, she confirmed it was imbued and turned the faucet and water rushed out. She has a moment of fear in this moment where she questions whether the water could be poisoned. She dips her fingers in, takes a taste, and hopes for the best. Vesper and her friends make their way to class. She sifts through the list of targets Dragor gave her, and they arrive in the auditorium before a long shadow falls over Vesper. Cayde. He tears the guy seated beside Vesper out of his chair and onto the floor before dropping to the seat beside her. They notice an earth-wielding fae staring them down, possibly from the allure of Vesper's succubus order, or maybe based on her infamous name. Now, the Stone Breakers are massive, strong, and covered with tattoos, but their loyalties are scattered, weakening their strengths against the Sky Wielders, likely the only reason Avanis hadn't won the war already. Their leadership was fractured, and their governing systems were chaotic, leaving them to fight amongst themselves instead of the forces beyond their borders. Vesper decides to have a little fun, releasing her succubus power, eliciting a brawl among the Stonebreakers before 6 Reapers enter the auditorium. Class begins, and Vesper's eyes wander through the group, noticing a rain carver girl, Everest, and appreciating the uniqueness of her wild hair and clothes among a sea of sheep. I absolutely love that we're seeing this sisterhood come together already. Like, our girl is already like, who is this rain carver?
It's this weird girl. I like her.
Right?
Yeah.
So good. Later, Moraine, Dahlia, and Vesper practice their sword fighting skills, and a man approaches, bragging that he has an uncle that's a high Reaper. Vesper often wondered whether family members of Reapers were given privileges within the stars. Could they see their futures or access the wisdom of stars that the rest of us couldn't receive? He says he seeks connections with Fae who've proven their worth in actions, suggesting an understanding might be possible between them. He introduces himself as Ogden Breeze. What a name.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Ogden. He sounds like a big oaf.
I'm like, this guy has to die with a name like that.
Right? Vesper uses her succubus powers to sway him towards honesty, and he ends up divulging a bunch of blasphemous things against the Reapers and the stars, and Vesper basically tells him to kick rocks, walking to the courtyard as she spots Cayde watching her in the shadows. This man's always in the shadows.
He's just always watching.
Vesper confronts him, asking him why, and he says he's looking for her weaknesses. In return, she tells him that she has none and walks away. I loved like the little banter between them. They've really taken it up another level, these authors, with the banter.
Her confidence is off the charts. Like, she's an icon. I love her.
Right? Yeah, all
Yeah.
of us could use a little bit of Vesper energy every once in a while. Something that I thought was interesting about Sage Moya, it felt like major foreshadowing for me. There's this internal monologue from Vesper, and she's talking about the sage that taught her blood magic and the forbidden type of room that can affect elements outside of air. To me, kind of suggested, like, is there a way that Vesper could manipulate the magic of runes to control other elements? I know I said in the last episode that maybe they have multiple elements, but maybe these runes are part of it. Like, we don't know a lot about these runes. So yeah, kind of begs the question, like, is this a whole other layer of magic system that is being built in Solaria? I feel like that would really take things up a notch. And I just feel like there's a reason why this sage whispered the runes that she could manipulate.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. I want to know so much more about that sage and her training and like everything to do with that. It highlighted for me that there are rules we don't understand. Having exposure to Solaria, it's strange that there are rules around how they can practice like elements. Like in other books we've read, you just like have the element or you don't. There isn't a talk of runes. And so the fact that they're being introduced, but they are like, there are rules, there's laws against them, that you can't practice another element's magic, even using something like a rune, is like very interesting. And it makes me wonder why. Like, where did that come from? Who has made a rule around these practices? And I think it just leads us to like this very small slice of the story that we've gotten so far. We really don't know who's orchestrating the politics that are even driving the endless war, the fact that they're training, like all of the reasons why these people are here.
Totally. Having some experience with the other Zodiac, like Zodiac Academy and Ruthless Boys, really brings some like nice color to this piece too that we may have otherwise not have picked up on. Just the fact that there are abilities in other books to wield dual elements. I think that's helping us bridge this connection and know that there could be more to the story here. I think it's made the speculation a lot more fun, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Something that I'm picking up is that the fact that if you have more than one element, which isn't like a given in other books, but it's more common, the fact that in the Sins of the Zodiac, if you have more than one element, you become a reaper. It's almost like the rules around Neverkeep and being a reaper are actually reinforcing the endless war because it's creating a very clear black and white divide. You are part of one group or you are not. And so if you could have more than one element, you would be like, you would have the perspective of being part of two groups and you would have that like camaraderie and there would maybe not be a reason to fight. So I just wonder, could the Reapers maybe be the ones who are reinforcing this battle that will not end?
And probably for a means of control too. I love that. I think you're absolutely right. This divide that they're creating. If you are not an air wielder, they treat you like shit. And that's basically the narrative that's been spewed across all of them. And so if somebody does present with dual powers, they're immediately taken under the Reaper's wing, under their control. It is kind of reinforcing this endless war and this divide amongst all of them.
Yeah, and like this isn't a spoiler about Zodiac Academy, but if you don't want to know anything, you can just skip ahead. But in Zodiac Academy, they get awakened to whatever elements they have, and then they move into sections of Zodiac Academy based on their elements, but it's not based on land. So you would have the opportunity for people from different places and like social statuses to mix together. Where at Neverkeep, it's a very firm line. It's just really reinforcing this divide that it's presented as if it's like a safer way to keep these students, but I don't think that that's really what it is.
I love that.
Everest wanders through Neverkeep, and as she's kind of moving around, we learn about the Flamebringers and the Matriarch. So their leader is Marielle Brimtheon. She rose to power at the age of 18 after beheading the previous ruler, a tyrant. She is thought to be one of the most dangerous fae in all of the Four Lands, and she is known for adopting the orphans that are born out of war and giving them her last name, Brimtheon. Everest makes her way toward the black sand on the edge of Neverkeep, and a huge ship-like structure approaches, Wandershire. Now, this movable island / mechanical type town visits Neverkeep once a month and offers the candidates the opportunity to buy clothes, food, weapons, and anything they need or want. Everest climbs onto this structure of incredible shops, and she lands her gaze on a beautiful dagger before a presence appears behind her. Mavis Angelico, the mayor of Wandershire. He eyes up the dagger that she carries with her, and he admits that he's been following her. He asks if he can admire her weapon, and she says no. She's looking for material to make some gloves and nothing more. So he guides her toward a cloth maker who has the most incredible fabric she's ever seen, including a waterproof material well beyond what she can afford. He offers that he will gift her any material as long as he can take a look at her dagger. And so they strike a deal and channel the magic of the stars. She hands him her dagger and he is absolutely amazed and asks her where she got it. She tells him that she forged it herself. And he says, I knew you were special, like a creepy ass man. He delivers on his part of the deal and he gets her the material that she asked for. And she thinks to herself, I was appreciative of the strange deal, but I didn't like the way he looked at me.
Interesting.
No kidding.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This guy is so creepy. Like, he's definitely preying on her weaknesses. Like, it's definitely like a predator prey situation. But I also know that he knows she's special. She just doesn't know how she's special yet.
Right.
So I found that interesting. Like, is he seeing something that we are not yet aware of?
Yeah. This guy is a very interesting character, and like we will talk about him more. I did get the feeling, and when I finished this section of the book, I'm like, these authors are just like presenting what feel like the epitome of like a narcissistic, toxic male character, where we get that like kind of like love bombing and like that full divide of like, am I special? Am I worthy? Or is this guy just the absolute worst? And like we see it in a few instances, and it just really stuck out to me that they're towing that line so well of like your gut instinct is like, no, Everest, no. But on the other hand, you're like, someone's seeing her for who she is, you know?
Right? 100%. Yes.
She leaves Mavis where he is and walks right into a solid body and falls back, looks up, and sees these black as nightshade eyes looking down at her. I had seen him in every dream, every vengeful wandering of my mind, my mother's killer. Now she tries to make her move and stab him, but he grabs her, and then a magical force hits her and takes hold of her mind. 3 blood red hounds form into existence beside him, and they start listening for fear inside of her. And she notices the name that's carved on his ring, Kaiser Brimtheon, Flamebringer. Now terror racks her bones as these dogs transform into her mother, and again she is pinned down below her, unable to move, reliving this horrific memory. And she figures it out. She knows what he is. He is a creature of legend and rare among the Fae, an order so terrible that few survive the cruelty of their wrath. A fury, a new order for us once again. Now, furies fed on fear. Their magic is recharged by the terrors of others. And he calls to her, "You seek to kill me, but you cannot fight off the power of my possession. So how will you ever lay a hand on me, Silka Lavine?" She reminds him that she did once. She left a nasty scar, in fact. So she asks why he didn't kill her then. And he says, "Your death wasn't worth the time it would take to clean my sword." Now, in that moment, she spots it. Her mother's sword is still strapped to the side of his hip. He releases her again and he walks away. And Everest sits there with the new information of who and what he is and commits herself to training against his strengths and searing his name into her mind. So, Kaiser, we have a name.
He's literally my favorite.
He that says so much.
That says so much about me. Kaiser is my favorite and Dragor. Like that's where we're at.
He's got the very dark, mysterious type. He's got a lot of things going on. And he's also got a bit of the like, for whatever reason, he's showing her kindness, right? Like he could kill her, but he's not. And so he's maybe playing with her, but maybe he kind of likes her. Like we don't really know.
Yeah, I love that. I love this sense of like carelessness that he's just like, I don't care.
I kind of noticed here, Kaiser kind of seems like our counterpart to our Vesper and Succubus energy. Like they have very similar dark and powerful magic. The way that they recharge themselves and like the torment that they can put on each other. Like when we get deep into what Vesper can do and how she draws desires out of people, it is like very, very similar to this fury energy.
It feels like they cross a boundary, like a big
Yeah.
boundary with their magic.
Yeah, like violation.
Yes,
Yeah.
violation is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a few of these orders. There is an order in Ruthless Boys that has this like similar, just like manipulative, kind of torturous energy. So I kind of feel like how amazing would it be if we got like a Kaiser Vesper battle, like these two going toe to toe with their crazy ass magic?
I would love to see that. I feel like he needs to be stomped on. Like, these authors are really good at getting you riled up for revenge. That's why I stormed the first 3 books of Zodiac Academy, because at the end of book 1, I was like, there's no way that I can go without reading book 2. And it is because of this like revenge aspect. I'm loving that we're getting it in this book too.
I also want to talk about the matriarch a little bit. She felt like a super important character that got introduced here, and I am betting like all my money that she is going to play a very important role in this series. I have this sneaking suspicion she's going to be connected in some way to whatever, or she's going to show up and like be a game changer kind of character. So I'm excited about her. Also, we love a matriarch.
Right? Yeah, we do love a matriarch. I love that it's not about a king here. She's got me intrigued for sure. Like, why is she collecting these weird orphan children? Like, there's definitely more to the story that I wanna uncover here.
She was 18 when she beheaded the king or whatever. There's a little part of my brain that's like, is this Vesper's mom? Like they they have kind of like crazy bitch energy, you know, like the good kind.
I like that.
We can hope.
A girl could dream.
Yeah.
1 month later, we find Vesper in one of the worshipping chambers. She hears a flamebringer laughing behind her and recognizes him as the Cobra, a fae with a reputation for striking without warning and also a name on Vesper's list. She connects to her power, sending it towards him, and then turns away and goes straight into the temple of Leo. At this point, no other fae has dared to enter a temple of a sign that isn't attached to their element, so she's deliberately stroking this fae's bloodlust. Now, as she enters the temple, she hears shouts and fighting from where she came, the Cobra losing his cool in the sacred temple. Now, Vesper could not keep herself from smirking, knowing that the Reapers would not be happy about that, and imagined that he'd be punished by being put in a cage and suspended from the ceiling for days. As she makes her way through the temple, Vesper hears voices. "I hadn't expected this until the blood moon," one voice said. Another voice rasped, "Do you think the Grand Maester will act? Super sus." The voices of the Reapers make a number of strange comments, almost sounding like they know that there's something going on and they don't want to miss the spectacle. As the Reapers leave the temple, Vesper follows them down a long passageway before hearing a scream slice through the air. As she catches up to them, she sees the backs of a few thousand neophytes standing in front of the Cobra, who is suspended in the air while the Grand Maester sends bolts of iron through his flesh, and another Reaper casts chains of flames to burn his skin. The Reapers have been clear that execution would follow for any fae who murdered another, but this was on a whole other level. Vesper mentally strikes the Cobra's name from Dragor's list in her mind and makes a run for it and tries to find her way out of the winding tunnels. She follows them into an opulent room and notices cracked stonework blackened by flame. The Cobra hangs from the ceiling with rusted shackles around his wrists, suspending him in the air once more. She hides behind a stone pedestal with a golden dagger and a bronze goblet filled with dark liquid on top of it. And when she looks up, she sees runes carved into the Cobra's skin, written in his own blood. We hear the Grand Maester chanting, "I call upon the dagger, blessed by the sun." The dagger flies from the pedestal into his hand. "I call upon the blood of the fallen." The goblet lifts and vanishes into his grasp. "And so our offering is made. And so your feast is prepared." Then something shifts, a weight in the air, a cold dread settling in like a fog. The Cobra releases a scream, pure agony laced with horror, and Vesper could barely breathe. She forces herself to look, finding herself going straight into an impenetrable darkness. There was movement, power, and a terrible weight in the air, almost like something was feasting. She runs for the window, launching herself out of it without a second thought for whether she'd been seen or not. She climbs the roof and gets back to her room as quickly as possible.
No
Damn,
shit.
crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. This was wild. Like, at this point, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Reapers are doing something shady.
Reapers have got something weird going on. We've got a bit of a sacrifice action. We've got some runes. It's really giving terrifying priest, you know? Like
Yes.
the Reaper priest connection is making me uncomfortable, but I haven't liked them from the beginning, so I'm okay with it.
I mean, with a name like the Reapers, I mean, that can't be good. That statistically, historically, isn't a good thing.
No, statistically, it's also not a good thing. Like, statistically, a Reaper is typically associated with death. So,
Right? Exactly. Yeah. This for me, like, it felt like they're definitely doing something with this rune magic. That part in the book where they're like, it feels like they're making an offering to some sort of like deity. But
yeah.
who, for me, is the question. Like, who could they be making this offering to? What kind of power are they summoning? Who is feasting? Like, who is feasting? Why are there runes on this guy's skin, too? Like, that is interesting.
Yes, it's very interesting. I mean, we can definitely theorize. There's some stuff that has kind of like felt a little similar to where we left off in Zodiac Academy, just some of the darkness that was also mysterious. Not a spoiler for Zodiac Academy, but there are like aspects of dark magic, also in Ruthless Boys, references to dark magic. They kind of come into play. I think what we can say is that the world of dark magic within Solaria is varied, and I think we are experiencing a new part of it and we don't understand it. So it clearly has to do with runes. My theory is that they are taking these young fae and these runes are channeling their magic into something.
Ooh, I love that. I love that so much.
I wonder what I hadn't thought about is like let's get our like psycho map out again, but like where there are instances of like death or like a fae kind of being abducted by the reapers? Is there any pattern connected to the elements that they wield? Because it would be very interesting to see if there was. Like, are they in an order? Are they from each element? Are they one element? Like, I don't know.
So what was Ogden?
Well, I think Ogden Breeze is an air sign based on
Air.
his name. I think also because he was hanging around with like Vesper.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
True.
and the Cobra
Fire, potentially.
Fire. I think you're right. And there are references to a couple others later in this section. I think there's a water sign that like is connected to Vesper's list that like goes missing, and I think she has something to do with it, but again, like she's not getting called out when these fae are harmed.
I love that theory. I think you're onto something there for sure.
Vesper, back in her room, hears the creak of a floorboard and she rips the dagger from her waist without a second's hesitation. She is then thrown against a wall and a body presses against her as she looks into Cayde's eyes. Always Cayde. Always Cayde. No one else. Where were you? He demands. Precisely where my prince needed me to be, she replies. We're supposed to be allies, he says. And they get into a little banter. Cayde calls her out on the fact that she only pays attention to him when he's threatening her, but he is always watching her, looking for the truths that she manages to hide so well. Now, he tells her that he has been tasked with staying close to her, basically as close as possible. She pauses on that and questions, like, why would the prince assign him to watch over her when clearly the prince thought that there was something going on when she was last at Rathbane? Now she wonders, is it a test? Is it to see if she would keep her vow to him? Cayde tells her she is very important, and as much as he doesn't want to admit it, for the war and to the prince, she is important. And Neverkeep is full of snakes. She matters, and he calls her by her name, Vesper. And she pauses. Very few people ever used her name, and she wasn't even sure if they remembered it most of the time. But here it was, rolling off his tongue like a claim of something more personal than she would have offered him. She admits she was following the Reapers, and he tells her, when you're willing to trust me with the rest, you know where to find me. And if there's any questions about your whereabouts, I will swear to the stars you were training with me, because despite how we feel about one another, we're supposed to be on the same side of this war. The next day, Vesper and the Sky Wielders head for the Pinnacle, which is a towering structure where air fae risk their lives by testing their air magic. They basically jump from towers at different heights and leverage their ability to fly or fall to their death. On the way, Vesper challenges Cayde. She releases her succubus powers on him to see if she can figure out his desire. And she does. Power. He hungered for it as desperately as Vesper did, almost as desperately as he desired Vesper. Her succubus powers draw him in until his hands are gripping her waist and his face is so close she could almost taste him. She also manages to lure in a nearby fae, and she decides to siphon power from him. There's a moment here where she talks about the power she siphons off of Cayde being almost like too much to bear. Because, again, something we know from other books is that it's like quite hot and heavy when certain fae get magic from other fae, and it seems like Cayde's magic kind of gets her heart going, and so she wants something a little more chill. So she goes for this lesser fae and draws out his desires, and she is kind of surprised to find that his attention is actually not on her, but on Cayde. And his mind is full of all sorts of filthy ideas of what he would do with Cayde. And somehow, Vesper gets pulled right into those visions, and she has a bit of a rude awakening at how much she enjoys the thought of being all up in his space. So,
Love it.
the girls go off on their own, and we learn that Vesper has made some progress on her little list from the prince, and both Dahlia and Moraine are onto her in terms of her assignment and her unhealthy obsession with Dragor. The girls go to the top of the tower and they leap off of it together, testing their magic and succeeding with flying colors, like a trio of sky dancers for all of you millennials out there.
Love that. And it actually fits perfectly with the names, like the rain carvers, the sky wielders, the sky dancers, the stone bringers. I love that.
I could not help but picture, like, you know what those are, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I used to love those, but like they were so dangerous.
I would like Mattel to please make a dark and moody Sky Dancer version of Vesper because I would buy it.
Oh my gosh, I would absolutely buy it. This was another angsty moment between Cayde and Vesper. Um, have none of these men been described yet? Like, have we gotten a single description? I have an idea in my head, but it's fully biased and based on my own fantasies. Like, I definitely think I'm just making it up.
Yeah. I don't know. Like we get a lot of like eye descriptions. Like I think in the moment where they're in the room together, she talks about like or maybe that's later, but she talks about how she can see his like yellow orange like kind of hazily eyes, but like I can't really I picture Kate as blonde, but I don't know that I should.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't really like blondes, so I picture them all as brunettes except for Dragor. I picture him as like a hot Draco Malfoy. Cade is giving like kind of Cassian vibes for me, like big and muscly brunette.
Yeah.
Kaiser is giving like Rhysand a little, just in terms of like the look, like the dark hair. And then Harlan, I don't even know. I spend very little time picturing Harlan.
And I think of as like, like Prince Charming, like a bit of a Tamlin type,
I can
like
see
looks
that.
wise. Cade is a hard one for me because I think the same, like he's got to be like big, but I don't know. I imagine him like tanned and like not blonde, but like a darker blonde, but chiseled jawline for like Kaiser, like dark and devious Kaiser. I was actually doing some Pinterest research last night to like pull together some aesthetic things. And I was getting these photos of these like scorched like art, where the like, fire is almost coming through their skin. And I was like, yes, like that I think is the vibe. It's like your skin is dark because you've like been burned by the
Right?
flames. And so like you are that dark energy.
Kaiser and his hellhounds.
Yes. And that is it for this episode. And if you can believe it, we have only scratched the surface. In our next episode, we will be covering the remainder of this section, so connected to chapters 11 through 25. So make sure you've got all that read before you dive in. We will be covering every last bit of it. And oh my God, so much happens. If you have a theory or any questions you want us to cover in an episode, please drop a comment below or send us a note at fantasyfemmefatales.pod@gmail.com. And if you want to hang with us a little more often, find us on socials at Fantasy Femme Fatales. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to your podcasts.